Hello everybody, my name is Nathan, and I am the man with a cartoon obsession. When I reviewed Domestic Girlfriend around Valentine's Day last year, I wasn't planning to make reviewing romance-leaning anime at this time of year a regular thing, since I'm not a huge fan of the holiday. However, the more I thought about it, the more I liked the idea, so me reviewing a romance anime close to Valentine's Day will officially be a yearly tradition here on Cartoon Obsession. Without any further ado, let's get into my review of Bloom Into You. Bloom Into You, or Yagate Kimi ni Naru, or Yagakimi for short, is an anime series based on the manga of the same name. The anime was produced by Studio Troika, and it was licensed and dubbed for Western audiences by Sentai Filmworks. The series ran from October 5th, 2018 to December 28th, 2018, and it consists of 13 episodes. For those of you who aren't familiar with Bloom Into You, it's a Yuri or Shoujo Ai series, which basically means it's a romance between two girls. While researching the difference between these two terms, I've found that there really isn't one. I guess it's just a matter of preference what you call it. Before I go any further, I'm going to throw in a spoiler alert just in case I end up giving too much away, which I'll try to avoid. Anyway, let's get into the story. The anime revolves around a high school girl named Yu Koito, who was always enamored by the idea of love based on the novels she read and songs she listened to, and she really wants to feel that romantic spark, but hasn't been able to. Then she joins the student council and meets Toko Nanami, a popular girl in school. The first thing Yu sees Toko do is turn someone down, and Toko tells Yu that she's turned down quite a few guys and girls because she's never felt interested in anyone either. That is, until she catches feelings for Yu. I'll talk more about Yu and Toko later because believe me, I have a lot to say. For now, let's talk about some of the other characters. We'll start with Sayaka Saiki, Toko's best friend, and she also just so happens to have a crush on Toko. Sayaka's an interesting character for me because at first, I didn't really like her that much. She came off as rude, at least to Yu, given her jealousy. Of course, she denies that she's jealous, but that's beside the point. However, the second time I watched the anime, I paid more attention to Sayaka, and realized that she's really not a bad person. She's actually kind-hearted, and you can tell she genuinely cares about Toko. Sure, she wears her heart on her sleeve sometimes, but don't we all? And she is standoffish towards Yu, like I said, but not all the time. And even so, she never comes off like she actually hates Yu. Overall, I think Sayaka is a solid character. She gets a good bit of development, and I came around on her over time. As for Yu's friends, the ones we see the most are Akari Hyuga, who's in the basketball club, and most of her story is that she's interested in a guy who's in the club with her. She doesn't do a whole lot, but she's harmless. Then there's Koyami Kano, who aspires to be a writer, and she ends up writing the script for the stage play the student council wants to put on. A copy of which, by the way, comes with the limited edition Blu-ray set, which I just so happen to own. I read the version of the script that came with the set, and I liked it. Anyway, Koyami is a solid character. She's not a main character, but I feel like she serves her role well. Moving back to the student council real quick, there's Suguru Dojima, who is really just a comic relief character, but he's a comic relief character who always gets a laugh out of me.
Your projection's really on point. Great job. Thanks!
And then there's Seiji Maki, who's also interesting to me because he's a supporting character within the world of the show. What I mean is, he's someone who likes to be on the sidelines and just watch the story unfold. However, he is a good support system for you, and that's always a good quality to have. There are a couple other characters who serve as support systems for others, such as Rei Koito, Yu's older sister. She's completely on board with the relationship between Yu and Toko, despite the fact that Yu denies it being a thing, and Miyako Kodama, who owns a cafe that is regularly visited throughout the show. She helps Sayaka try and figure out her feelings. There aren't really any bad characters in this series. Well, there's that one girl who says that girls liking girls is just a phase, but that played an important role in a character's backstory, and that girl is only seen maybe twice in the whole show, so she's basically irrelevant. Besides her, like I said, this show has a solid cast of characters, and I just talked about some of the supporting characters here. The main ones are coming up. Before we get there though, let's talk about some other positives. The music in this show is top-notch. It really helps drive the show along and conveys so many different emotions. What more could you ask for with a soundtrack? The voice acting in the show is very good as well. Naturally, I mainly watch the English dub, but I did keep tabs on the sub version as well. For the most part, they were pretty similar, but I did notice a scene that was changed to make it more localized towards Western audiences. Honestly, I prefer the dubbed version of this scene, but I'll show you a little clip of both and you can decide for yourselves which you think is better.
ユウも私のこと名前で呼ぶのはどう？え？あ、ごめん、やっぱり。トウコ先輩。トウコ先輩。
What if maybe you came up with a nickname to call me too? Oh, sorry if that's...
Like what? Maybe honey?
As for the dub performances, I have to give a shout out to Tia Ballard as Yu and Lucy Christian as Toko. I think they both did a fantastic job portraying these characters, and I can really feel the chemistry between the two. Visually, the show is also very impressive. The character designs are fantastic. They all look great. Some of my favorites in that regard are Yu, Toko, and Koyami. She looks unique to me, at least compared to the rest of the characters in this show. The cinematography in the show is great too. I love all the different camera angles, filters, visual effects, and different perspective viewpoints we get. It's so easy to get immersed in the show and just get lost in the beauty of it all. One final visual aspect I want to point out is the fact that the color palette features a lot of shades of orange and yellow, and I love that because it gives Bloom Into You such a warm feeling, and that makes the viewing experience much more pleasurable. Alright, I've been putting this off long enough. Let's get into the real meat and potatoes of this review. The relationship between Yu and Toko. Like I said earlier, Yu has never felt that romantic spark that she's been longing for, and neither has Toko really. Although that changed for Toko when she met Yu. She confesses her feelings to Yu and she kisses her only within the first couple episodes. However, Yu just doesn't feel anything. Toko and Yu never officially say they're dating, at least in the anime. Their relationship is pretty complex. Toko initiates just about everything and Yu just goes along with it. But that's the way they like their relationship. Now, this is where I started to think about an anime called Scum's Wish. In that series, the characters all act so selfishly, they end up hurting each other and themselves just to please their own lustful desires. For the record, I don't like Scum's Wish, and I was so worried that the relationship between Yu and Toko would fall down that rabbit hole too. But I was pleasantly surprised to find out that it doesn't. I'm not going to say that they don't act selfish at all, because they do, but it doesn't feel malicious or self-destructive. They're selfish for mostly wholesome reasons. In fact, I should mention that not only is this a show about romance, because that's only a part of it, but it's also a show about self-discovery. I love those kinds of stories, and I think this anime handles that idea well and maturely. Yu can't figure out why she can't feel love. It's not explicitly stated that she's asexual, and I'm not going to try to speculate, especially since I haven't read the manga. Although I have come across a few spoilers, unfortunately. Regardless, she wants to feel that spark and she's struggling. But her being with Toko puts her a little more at ease. She feels more comfortable with herself, and you can really see her growth throughout the series. I'm not kidding when I say that Yu is making her way up my favorite anime characters list. I like everything about her that I've already mentioned, and I also enjoy how blunt she can be. I feel like that's a trait in people that doesn't always get the appreciation it should. Plus, she's just so sweet and adorable. How can you not like that?
You look miserable. I am miserable.
Toko has a big identity crisis too. She puts on a facade in public and becomes the ideal person that everyone wants her to be when she's completely different deep down, and Yu is the only one who gets to see her more vulnerable side. It gets a little heartbreaking actually, but Yu helps Toko when she's at her weakest, and even though her expressions may not always show it, you can tell that she cares deeply for Toko. The relationship between these two feels so genuine and wholesome. Complicated, sure, and it does get a little messy from time to time. Hell, it even gets frustrating, but in a good way if that makes any sense. This is a bond between two characters who are good for each other and help each other. Yu helps Toko a lot more directly, like I mentioned before, but again, you can see Yu's development progress when she starts spending time with Toko. Yuri anime can get a bad rap for being fetishistic, and in the case of some Yuri anime, I get it. For Bloom Into You though, I don't see it. Sure, there are a couple more suggestive moments, but number one, it just feels like you and Toko are exploring their relationship, which is natural, and number two, the anime doesn't dwell on those types of scenes for too long. There isn't anything overtly sexual in the anime. Hell, there's only one scene that shows any sort of nudity, and it's when they're taking a bath, so it makes perfect sense for them to be in the buff. And again, nothing happens between them in this instance, and the anime doesn't spend too long on this scene. Even when they kiss, it doesn't happen often. The anime spaces the kisses out pretty well, which is good because there are other Yuri anime, like Sakura Trick for example, where the main couple kisses a lot, and it goes from feeling sweet and wholesome to forced and kind of pointless. I never felt like they were running Yu and Toko's connection into the ground. In fact, I felt like it was getting even stronger the further I got into the series. Well, I think I said everything I needed to about that. Since I talked about all the positives, let's get into the negatives. Well, the relationship between Yu and Toko, while excellent, does have a slow burn to it. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad that it doesn't feel rushed, but I was hoping for the progress to happen just a little quicker. That's a pretty small complaint though. The only other real complaint I have is the fact that the anime ends on a cliffhanger. However, there's a caveat to this. While this ending doesn't feel completely satisfying, it is oddly satisfying. It's not a great ending, but it is a good one. It ends on a lower note than what I hoped for, but a higher one than what I expected. Basically what I'm saying is, if you're going to end an anime on a cliffhanger, this is a pretty good way to do it in my opinion. Overall, I give Bloom Into You a 9 out of 10. It's a light 9 if I'm being honest, but I still adore this series. It's quickly become one of my favorite romance anime, Yuri or otherwise, and I highly recommend it. I wish we could get a second season, but I can always read the manga.
Toko. Toko?
Yeah?
Toko, darling.
Quit it.
Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you have any other cartoons, anime, or other animated works that you want me to talk about in the future, please let me know. After all, it's not my channel, it's our channel. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and feel free to check out my social media pages, audition for an outro, and join the official Cartoon Obsession Discord, the links for all of which are in the description below. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.
Hi, I'm Hinata Yuga from Naruto, and thank you for watching Cartoon Obsession.